You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. And today I'm quite excited for the guest we have on. He's someone who will be offering quite the different insight into soccer for the podcast. He's a man with almost 17 years of media experience under his belt. You may know him from his coverage of the CFL or his coverage of Canadian soccer. He's someone who is synonymous with Canadian sports journalism and media, and someone who I personally look up to in this industry. His name is Matthew Scianitti. So, Matthew, thank you so much for being here today.
Sam, I really appreciate that introduction, man. You made me feel old off the top, but you stuck the landing at the end. I really appreciate it, man. Glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad I could recover from that.
It's all good. It's all good. Sometimes I have to remember how long I've been doing this job. So
Amazing. So starting off right out the gate, I just want to know what was so alluring about the world of sports media for you that made you want to really hop into this and devote your life to it?
it's funny. I originally wanted to get into political journalism, and when I was at Toronto Metropolitan University doing my grad degree,
Mhm.
I had the choice of doing a profile on a Canadian politician or covering the Canadian men's national rugby team, which you can see their jersey just up there.
Yeah.
I am so happy, even though I come from a political family, I am very, very happy that I chose the route of going into sports journalism, sports storytelling, because it has been the great passion of my professional life and really my whole adult life. I think about some of the writers of the books that I have behind me, guys like
Yeah.
Gary Smith from Sports Illustrated, who I emulated and wanted to replicate their careers. And I dipped my toe into writing magazines and was a sports reporter for the National Post for a little bit.
Yeah.
Was able to be alongside such great sports storytellers like Sean Fitzgerald. Mark Masters was my seatmate for a while, as was Bruce Arthur, Mike Tracos, Eric Corrine, Aaron Valois. I mean, at that time, I'm very, very blessed to have been in what I selfishly regard as the best sports section in the country.
Yeah.
Times have changed, media has changed, obviously, keeps changing, and in 2013, when my contract was up with the Post, I got an opportunity to go on TV and to have spent the last almost 14 years at TSN is one of the greatest honors of my life, because I get to interact with individuals like yourself and people all across the country. And I think the most important thing that I always remind myself is, because I work on Canadian television, I work on Canadian media, the work that I do, and not just myself, but my colleagues, different networks, different mediums,
Yeah.
we're all part of telling a wider Canadian story and the way that sports shapes our national narrative. And being so blessed to have been involved with the CFL in a number of different capacities since 2011 soccer's been the great passion of my life, from growing up playing the game uh, to been so blessed to continue to cover it and getting ready for another World Cup, my second World Cup, which to me sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Um, all of those things, and you and I have spoken about this off air, but I feel like the luckiest guy in the world, and I'm very, very blessed to be able to enter the homes of so many Canadians as I have for the last decade plus, and tell them stories about the country they live in and the sports that are played here and how those sports shape who we are. So I'm. This is still the best job in the world for me.
Absolutely. And what I love about that is, like, as I said in the intro, and as you've kind of alluded to, people like let you into their homes in a sense, with watching TSN all the time, and whether it's CFL or Canadian soccer, like my buddies, like we know who Matthew Scianitti is because we keep up with all these sports, and I think that's great. So I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about, why was it so important for you to cover Canadian sports? Because I know a lot of Canadians, we like all types of sports, whether it's in soccer, we like, the Prem, Serie A, Bundesliga, or, CFL, there's the NFL. What was so important about covering Canadian sports for yourself?
That's an excellent question. We are so unique as a country given the size of us, given the different regions, provinces, territories, the many people like my own family who chose to come over here. My own personal story on my father's side, my nonno and nonna came over here in the 50s. I'm half Italian,
Yeah.
and the other half, my mother's from Quebec,
Okay.
and is Irish and Ukrainian, and grew up in the East End of Montreal. So there are so many, like even within my own life story, there are so many beautiful little details and nuances. And unlike other countries
Yeah.
where there is this kind of like fixed narrative on what it is to be British or American or pick another country,
Yeah.
there are so many different ways of defining what it means to be Canadian. And to be able to, even within the Canadian Football League, what it means to be a Canadian to an Alouettes fan is
Mm.
very different than what it means to be a Canadian to a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan, to a BC Lions fan. And especially when you talk about the Canadian men's national team, there are so many guys on this team who come from so many parts of our country, but who have connections to so many different parts of the world. You could go through
Yes.
the lineup. I mean, Jonathan David could have played for three countries in Haiti and the United States, and obviously chose Canada. Richie Reyes' grandfather used to play professional soccer in Ghana, to Ismail Kone and his story and his mother's story coming from the Ivory Coast. To Moise Babito and his,
Yeah.
he has grandparents and members of his extended family who were in the government in Congo. So it's
Yeah.
like there are so many amazing stories that we all push through the lens of being Canadian, and it is a remarkable thing. And the one thing that to kind of round it off is that story is still being told, and to
Mm.
be kind of a part of that process of telling an ever evolving story about our identity, especially when you're thinking about a World Cup
Mhm.
coming here. I lived right by BMO Field. I can stick my head out and see
Yeah.
the stadium. That to me is far more appealing, and it always has been. And I've covered the NFL, I've covered the NBA, I've
Yeah.
covered the NCAA basketball, I've covered the NHL. I've spent a little bit of time, not a lot of time, but a little bit of time covering Major League Baseball. And coming home, I've always said this. I have just right behind the lens here. I have a collection of all of these magnets from all the places around the world I've been very blessed to have traveled to work. And I've said it since the moment that that TSN sent me, told me to have my passport in my knapsack and threw me out the door onto a plane. I
Yeah.
always love coming home because the stories that we can tell here and the way that we can tell our stories has been far more appealing to me than any other opportunity.
That's awesome. And that's what I kind of love, is because in Canada, like you're saying, like we are so diverse, and there's so many different people and so many different stories to tell. And I'm so glad that we have people that are devoting their time and efforts and careers literally to telling these great stories. And especially from a soccer aspect, everything that's going on with the men's national team, with all these guys that could play for, as you alluded to, X, Y, and Z countries, it's getting more and more amazing that guys are choosing to play for Canada, and we have people that are so happy to have them and be telling these stories. And I think it's so exciting on the cusp of this World Cup as well, that I think it's going to be just absolutely massive to see what this World Cup can truly do for this country going forward. And I want to take it back a little bit to the start of your career a little bit here, and just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what were kind of some things that have changed and evolved during your time since you kind of started to now, because the industry has changed just so much. And I mean, even in the last 5 years, it's changed. But
Yeah,
how's it changed?
I have been. It's funny. This past weekend, I was at the Toronto FC home opener. My family has season tickets, and they were showing videos of fans throwing their seat cushions when Danny Dichio scored
Yeah,
the club's first ever goal against the Kansas City Wizards, as they were called back then. And I was in the stands with my younger sister throwing our seat cushions, and just to look at that viz, and even in the not to get too technical, but the aspect ratio of being in standard definition versus high definition,
yeah,
that is only the tip of the iceberg of the changes. And I've been very blessed, and it's part of what I've done to challenge myself really to have the longevity I've had in this business, is to work in every medium. I've worked in newspapers. I've done radio. I have done worked for CBC Sports and their web desk. Obviously, been in television. Done different aspects of my job at TSN. but it's still storytelling, and creativity is like so integral to that, and challenging yourself. I mean, uh, for the sake of not name dropping, and I remember a Labor Day Classic. Before the Labor Day Classic, I was doing a feature with the former Olympic champion figure skater Patrick Chan.
Yeah.
I'm shooting a feature with him, like a bigger feature for, not only that went on social media, but also went on broadcast in various other forms. And then I get in my car and I got to sprint because I have a live broadcast. You have to be passionate. You
Mhm.
have to want to be creative and tell stories differently and build your own brand. And I think for me, if I am proud of one thing, it's that I've stayed true to who I am and who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And not to say it's greater, less than, equal to anybody else, but I just find, it humbles me, and it makes me, very proud to have been in this business as long as I have, to know that yourself and others, follow my work. And when people come up to me and they want to talk about my work, I think that's the greatest reward. I mean, that's what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it, on a base level. I'm always trying to create content that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And one of our incredibly talented feature producers at TSN, Matthew Dorman, and I talk about this all the time. And he's the guy who has worked alongside me for features on Tejan Buchanan. We're just in Spain doing another
Yeah.
feature on Tejan Buchanan
Yeah.
and Tani Oluwaseyi. But we talk about this all the time, that you have to have a willingness to try and be creative, and do it for yourself first. And if the audience, if you're genuine and you're passionate, the audience will follow. And yeah, I'm really, really lucky that I've been able to kind of dabble in every little thing. And
Yeah.
I've never married myself to, oh, I'm just going to do TV, or I'm just going to do this. And I think having done and tried every kind of medium, that for me, beyond engaging with the audience, has been incredibly fulfilling, because it's just showed that creativity, it can translate to every kind of form and every kind of medium.
I love that. I think one of the underrated aspects of what you get to do is the creativity of it. I don't think people realize how much fun it can be, and I think that's why a lot of your stories in particular, I think, really resonate with a lot of people, with the way that you present things and the way that you handle things with such respect. And we've talked about this before in the past off camera. I just want to talk a little bit about your importance of nuance and how it's not always black and white. I want to kind of get your 2 cents on the importance of being a bit more in the middle rather than one side other. You like just right in the middle, the nuance, and I just want to hear more about that.
Rage baiting is what sells now in the
Hmm.
information economy that we live in.
Yes.
I refuse. If I'm going to put my name on a take, if I'm going to put my face in front of camera, I better damn well have the facts to back it up,
Hmm.
because I'm in a situation, and this isn't I'm not personally attacking anybody. People can, however they're comfortable about creating their content, they ultimately have to answer for it. But
Yeah.
for me, I interact with people every day. I have to, I'm on the phone constantly. I'm meeting people. I'm engaging with not only athletes, with their families, with people I work with, and I think what has really reinforced that idea that things aren't necessarily black and white is that I have to deal with live broadcasts and watch games as they're happening, so
Yeah.
I can see details that most people can't. And oftentimes within the framework of a football broadcast or soccer broadcast, I try to articulate those things. It's not always easy, but it's not always as simple as, well, this player, he just sucked. He sucked. He blew it. Like, what the heck, man? Like, this guy
Yeah.
he's making millions of dollars. How can he just blow that? It's like, well, he's a person like anybody else, and there
Yeah.
are grades um, and there are details and nuances to a game, a moment. And I've always found that it's far more entertaining to explain to people the things that they don't see, that they don't know, the details that they may not be aware of, rather than just blanket statements. And that's me. Some people can disagree, and some people, they're absolutely entitled to their opinions, especially when it comes to speaking about having their hot take, or
Yeah.
or putting their name on something, whether it's just to get a rise out of people for clicks. I find that that's not for me. But when you look at the gray area, when you look at the in between, you find it's a lot more fascinating. Right and wrong are easy,
Yeah.
but getting right in between trying to understand the reasons why people do things. I mean, I look at this World Cup, for example, and it's very easy to look at things in wins and losses. And the truth is, like, Canada's going into this World Cup not only as hosts, but with a tremendous opportunity in front of them with the growth of the sport.
Yes.
And we can look at that as risk. We can look at that as reward or failure. But for me, it's far more compelling to look at the journey, to look at the process, to look at all the things that build a team and build a player and build a coach towards a moment, to getting ready for a moment. And that takes sometimes a little more work, I will say,
Yeah.
than just having an opinion, putting your, slamming your hand down on the table. But I just find it's far more appealing to me to try to find that space between and make that space in between important for people to understand and value.
Awesome. And that's what I really like about getting to watch your work and read some of your even your tweets as well. Just how you lay them out of like, oh, this player, maybe clubs are looking at him. This is what this could mean for his, foreseeable future. And it's just those little details of us kind of getting to know the players in a sense through you in a strange way, because the care that you put into the things that you do is like amazing. And that's why I wanted to ask a little bit about the time that it takes to put in all this care for these guys, and how, I guess in a sense, how you make it so respectable and so respectful when you're kind of covering a story or a segment or whatnot. So my question here in a long sense is,
it's okay. Believe me, I'm just saying, I'm known for ramble. No, your questions are fine. I'm known for going on, and ask any of the players I've covered. My questions can go on and on and on. So you're good, bro.
my question here is about getting down to the like being respected by the players and everything, and how you make it so easy for us as fans to relate to these players and want to tune into these segments and read these tweets and stories and everything. How do you kind of make that so accessible for us?
I hate to be crass, but everybody poops, man. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's a person. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's. I completely understand the mythology that we kind of tie to professional athletes, for no other reason that they can do incredible things that 99% of the population can't.
Yeah.
But to make them relatable, to kind of peel the layers back, to show you that Luke Dufougero is just a kid, man. He's the kid who used to his dad, who was a Montreal Canadiens fan and used to play foot hockey with a tennis ball in his kitchen in Montreal, that he taught his son the game through what was then for him in his neighborhood in Montreal, a very Canadian exercise.
Yeah.
And to be able to kind of relate that to people, to make them grow an appreciation and an attachment to somebody on relatable aspects of life, I find that like the most compelling thing. And again, I understand, especially the world that we live in now, that everyone wants to feel like their opinions are the most important thing. Everyone's entitled to opinion. Not everyone needs to hear it. But someone's story and the care and the time and the dedication they put into their craft, win or lose, I find, the most not only compelling, but the most satisfying kind of story, because we all do that. We all in our lives try our best. And, I mentioned before the Canadian men's national rugby team.
Yeah.
That team, just talking about them makes me emotional, because I spent so much time around them, and it made me really appreciate. This was a team that went to the 2011 Rugby World Cup and went there to get their butts kicked. And I don't mean butts kicked in like the sense of like, well, they suck. No. They beat Tonga, they tied Japan. But those guys, Jeff Sinclair, Phil McKenzie, Nathan Hariyama, like these, to be able to spend time around athletes and earn their trust. And that's another aspect of it too. Like, you have to go in with the humility, as I often do. You have to show up. You have to be there consistently. You have to show a level of care and objectivity. And I know that word now in certain contexts is kind of being reevaluated as we talk about, opinions and how they matter in different, not only in sports, but in all forms of life. But if you come in and people see that you care and they see that you want to spend the time to get to know them, they are, especially in this business, they will open up to you. And everyone has different strategies of how they approach talking to athletes and how they approach growing those relationships, I've always felt that if you go in with a genuine perspective, an objective perspective, that you just want to tell a good story, um, that athletes will, by and large, open up to you. They all have different personalities. No one is, there is no one right way to build a relationship with an athlete or an agent or a
Mhm.
coach or a general manager. But if you're genuinely who you are, and I think this is important, I mean, not to make this about like how to be successful in the sports industry, but
Yeah.
ultimately, if you understand who you are and you're comfortable in your own skin, and that takes time, so you'll find that people will gravitate to you and they will gravitate to the work that you're doing, obviously within the context of the sports and sports journalism and sports media.
Yeah.
And I have never planned this. Like I haven't planned out like, oh, at this age I'm going to do this, and this age I'm going
Yeah.
to do that. I just opportunities have come up. I've been at the right place at the right time, and I've always felt myself that if I'm genuinely who I am, then I will find the stories and I will build the relationships. It's not. I mean, there's always a competitive aspect. You're always going to, I want to be the first to do this, or I want to break this news, or I want to be the person who owns this story. That's all well and good as a kind of an impulsive first reaction, but when you really sit down, you have to take the time because you talk about certainly some of the tweets and maybe some of the stories I've broken and the work that I've done.
Yeah.
That took years. That took years of calling. It doesn't happen right away. You just don't call somebody and say, "What do you got to tell me? What
Yeah.
breaking news can I share with people?" No, it's a genuine desire to say, "I care. I'm working on behalf of whatever media organization, or I know that I'm trying to build an audience to get people excited about a particular event." At one time, it was the 2022 World Cup, then it was Copa America, then it was Gold Cup, and now it's a home World Cup. And if people can see that and they see that you're passionate about it and that you stay the course and that you're not just like here today, gone tomorrow, yeah, you'll find building relationships isn't that difficult.
Yeah, awesome. And what I really like there is kind of you're alluding to it not always being on a timeline, and some things take shorter, some things take longer in a sense. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the dedication and the discipline that you kind of have to keep in order to kind of keep growing yourself and keep growing the game and keep growing through these stories? Like how do you just keep so motivated and so dedicated to doing this and devoting so much time to it?
Two quick stories for you. One of my great mentors, one of the greatest play-by-play voices in our country's history, Chris Cuthbert, told me many, many years ago when I had not done television. I was being thrown into it at a time when TSN was taking newspaper reporters like myself and Mark Masters and Dave Naylor and Rick Westhead. And
Yeah.
really, it all goes back to the Bob father. I mean, if Bob McKenzie hadn't made his transition from the Toronto Star and the Hockey News to television and showed that it could work in Canadian media, I may not have a job. So
Yeah.
kudos to him. But Chris Cuthbert said to me, "You won't know who you are on camera for a decade. You won't know who you are. You will try things. You will. There's a performance. There's a facade, a bravado that you try to have, and once you peel that away, and that takes time. And I've blown live hit. I blew a live hit on Sports Center. If you want to go, I doesn't it does. I don't lose sleep over it. Like it's like some. I will say with air quotes, a very nice person decide to put it on YouTube,
Yeah.
and I don't. I've never watched it because I lived it. I understand what failure feels like in this industry, and I and
Yeah.
and I've had to work through it, and I've had to take the time. The the sense of instant gratification, especially when you're in media, is incredibly appealing because
Mhm.
it's attention driven, right? You want people to listen to what you're saying. You want to be up front of the big lights. If you're in this job, you have a little bit of an ego and
Yeah.
you want really to assert yourself and say, I have something to say and people should listen to it. But if you take the time and you build a genuine connection with the people off camera, and then you'll build a genuine connection with the people in the audience, with people around the media space. It takes time, but that time is worth it. Like
Yeah.
it truly is. And I think about this journey that I've been on with the Canadian men's national team. It's funny. I'm in my condo right now, and some of the first calls I made. I mean, literally sitting right here. I talked to Stefan Estacchio for the first time
Yeah.
in I think it was fall of 2022.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, 2020, during COVID, we're all locked in and I'm building and I'm basically stuck in one position.
Mhm.
And I'm like, how do I build a relationships with these guys when everyone's stuck in their house? And I just realized it was going to take time
Mhm.
and patience and the certainly persistence to say to myself, not everything's going to be perfect. It's not always going to go the way I expect. It's not always going to come across to the audience like I've got to, maybe I've got a hold on this and I'm trying to figure this out. But the audience is often more forgiving than you think. And
Yeah.
by that I mean, if you show that passion and you show that desire and you show that dedication, well, the audience will stay with you. And I have found that, and I've been very lucky to keep living that. And that's what makes this summer so incredible. Especially in this country. It's not a culmination per se, but for me, it's building towards being able to all that time that I took, not just myself, but think about Joshua Cloak and certainly think about Neil Davidson and John Molinaro and Paul Atfield and Chris Jones. Like
Yeah.
this really is soccer's coming out party, and a lot of people have invested a lot of time into the sport.
Yeah.
And to know that it'll pay off in different ways and different kinds of ways that people create their content is incredible. And it really drives home the point that not everything has to be done like that.
Yeah.
Things can take time. And if you spend the time to work on something, it's this is a longer, more expanded way of saying, measure twice and cut once. Take the time,
Yeah.
pay attention to the details, learn from your mistakes and keep evolving. And you'll find time will start moving. It often moves faster than you want it to, but time will move and you'll realize, hey, I'm getting a hang of this. And people are gravitating towards the things that I'm creating.
That's awesome. And you brought it back a little bit to Canadian soccer, which I do love because I have a couple questions lined up about Canadian soccer and the World Cup, of course, coming up. You've, of course, been super involved with a lot of the media side of it. I just want to know kind of what you're looking forward to most about Canada getting to host this World Cup, and I guess kind of the connotations that come with that of opening our doors to the world, and now everybody's kind of going to see soccer in Canada.
I invite everyone to one of the books I have behind me is The Power and the Glory by Jonathan Wilson, writer for The Guardian and a great football historian. If you have the time, read the book or listen to the audiobook. It shows you that in a complicated world, the World Cup has always tried to have an ideal, which is, bringing nations together and having them communicate through the simplest game there is on the planet. I think, God willing, we get there. But I think that the world is about to see how brilliant this country really is. When you think about the nations that are coming here, Germany, Ghana, Ivory Coast, the African Cup of Nations champions, Senegal, Croatia,
Yeah.
could be Italy, might be Wales, or even if it's Bosnia and Herzegovina or Northern Ireland, then obviously we have Vancouver, which is going to have Egypt and Mo Salah and Belgium and Australia, New Zealand, Qatar and Switzerland, all this obviously too facing Canada.
Mhm.
This country represents in some way all of those communities.
Yeah.
Like you can go to any part of, and there are established, beautiful communities that represent all the best of all of those countries. And I often say this, coming to Canada is a choice. Embracing the weather, the size of the country, the way that we do things is a choice that millions of people and millions of families have made for over 150 years. And I think that sometimes we take that for granted. And I think we're not going to take it for granted this summer because this is the country that I think has always, we saw it during the Women's World Cup in 2015.
Yeah.
But this is the country that has always represented what we idealize in our minds the World Cup to be. And I think about Canada's first game, irrespective of who they play. But let's invite the expectation that it is Italy.
Mhm.
Myself of Italian, Italian descent, it makes me emotional thinking about what that'll mean to so many people, irrespective of certainly, and we can get to this, the tensions of
Yeah.
Italian Canadians rooting for Italy versus rooting for Canada, and I believe me, I have thoughts on that. But I think about what BMO Field will be like, and I think about joy. I don't think about winning again. We go down the middle. We think of things in sports as winning and losing.
Yeah.
I think of that as a transformative moment. I think about what the Italian national team means to that immigrant community with Italian Canadians, what the sport means to so many immigrant communities, and to know that it's getting a stage here in this country that has embraced so many communities. Um, there's nothing better. I mean, what more could you ask for? And I say to people, and I have said this, I know to you, but I've said this to anyone who will listen, having been blessed to cover a World Cup, nobody knows what's coming.
Yeah.
You can't, like when the energy hits you, it's like a wave, like you see the wave, you feel the wave, and and when it washes over you, enjoy it. Yeah, there's going to be inconveniences with traffic. Yes, there's going to be inconveniences in other aspects of the city. And, I do not dismiss the concerns of people when it comes to the city and infrastructure and moving. I don't dismiss that at all. But for a moment, if you're in this city and I mean this Toronto, and I'm also going to obviously be in Vancouver as well, but for both cities, take the time and enjoy it and embrace it, because in a world that is oftentimes, especially now, filled with tension and conflict, in this country we have found a way to communicate with each other from so many different backgrounds. One of if not the most diverse country on the planet. We've found that middle ground with each other, and we have found that space where we can all communicate with one another. And we're going to find it this June through a sport that so many of us, whether we consciously watch the game or it's just part of our upbringing, it really doesn't matter. This sport has meant so much to so many people,
Yeah.
and to know that we're on the cusp of an incredible event, my goodness, I mean, it'll be pinch yourself. There will be countless pinch yourselves moments, not only for the people living in Toronto and Vancouver, but the whole country, because I really do think this is going to be a special summer.
That's awesome. And what I really love is we're bringing it back to that diversity of this country, of how everybody's going to get to be brought together for these moments. And can you just kind of discuss a little bit about the importance of, say it is in Italy that we do play, can you kind of discuss the importance of people getting behind our Canadian men's national team and cheering for them? Like, look at what they did in the Copa America. Even last qualifying cycle, nobody expected us to do as well as we did during that 21-22 era. Can you just kind of talk about why it's so exciting for us as Canadians to really get back this team going into 2026?
A transformative moment.
Yeah.
There really isn't anything more to say beyond that. And I will touch on, people need Jesse Marsh is going to call on the country. He already has to cheer for the men's national team, but many Italian Canadians will not, and I'll explain why. My father's father came over here in 1951, as I already mentioned, and it was a very different time back then for Italians coming over, and the way that they felt the strongest connection to who they are is through the Italian men's national team. My father will tell you, as many, many, many Italian Canadians will say, that one of their big moments of awakening was the 1982 World Cup when Italy won. I will put a stamp on it and put my hand down right now. Yes, the great Eusebio played here with the Toronto Blizzards and Toronto Metro Croatias and the Serbian White Eagles. We've had a history of soccer here for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But the 1982 World Cup really was a coming out moment in a lot of ways, because that win triggered something within the Italian community. And that celebration manifested in different ways when Greece won in 2004, when Spain won in 2000, and obviously in 2008, 2010, and 2012. This city and I mean Toronto, this city has always been a stage. We talk about what the World Cup means the Euros mean and the World Cup means every 2 years or so. And for Italians, they mark their lives based upon what has happened in their life with the Italian men's national team. My father, obviously, he had his big moment and talked about being on college, being on St. Clair in 1982 when Italy won the World Cup. When I was a young boy in 1994, I can close my eyes and remember the 1994 World Cup final and being there and watching Baggio miss that penalty and feeling a sense of disappointment, like a deep disappointment for some reason, and not really understanding why I felt that disappointment. And then having that evolve through watching France beat Italy in the 2000 Euro final and David Trezeguet's golden goal, through all the conspiracy theories that many Italian Canadians still have about the 2002 World Cup when they lost to South Korea, through my own, the moment that I remember, which is, certainly the run in 2006, and the passion I felt watching Totti score the penalty against Australia, and jumping and going crazy when Alessandro Del Piero, scored the second goal after Fabio Grosso had scored against Germany, and that excitement. But to get to your point about cheering for Canada, I had an odd moment when I was on St. Clair West when Italy beat France, in that certainly when Zinedine Zidane headbutted Marco Materazzi, and then Italy won on penalties to win that World Cup, and certainly all the greatness of Cannavaro and Pirlo and that whole team. And then I remember walking down the street and thinking, this means something to me, but I'm Canadian, and like, I don't speak Italian. I mean, there's a whole other story why many Italian Canadians don't speak Italian, which is maybe for another time. But it's not that I didn't feel a connection to it. I had a deeper desire for something more. I wanted to see Canada succeed. Also over my shoulder is a revealing jersey that I'm a massive, lifelong, fanatical Manchester United fan.
Yeah.
But I've always felt this country in the men's game, and I won't speak about the women's game because the women's team has the men are actually trying to catch up to the women in terms of just consistency of success, even though the women's team is going through a bit of a rebuild right now. But that men's team, and having covered Dwayne De Rosario, the disappointment of Owen Hargreaves, and speaking to Owen Hargreaves as I did back in 2008 after Manchester United won the Champions League final, and talking to him about his decision to choose England over Canada, to watch guys like Ian Hume play in the lower divisions in England, to see the way that Canadian men's soccer has persisted and evolved through the disappointments of not qualifying, through winning the 86 obviously, but not qualifying again for a long time, and winning the Gold Cup and going to the FIFA Confederations Cup. The great energy and story around Craig Forrest as he was battling cancer, and what that meant as himself a starting goalkeeper in the English Premier League, and the pride that so many felt about Craig Forrest's achievements through Dwayne De Rosario and his 4 MLS Cup. I mean, there are so many stories that have led to this moment. And when I was very lucky to get the call and my producer Owen Marr at TSN said, we need somebody to cover the Canadian men's national team as they're getting ready to try to get to the World Cup for the first time in 36 years. He didn't get the question out of his mouth before I said absolutely. Yeah. Because I will tell you, as objective as I tried to be in my role, to have been in that stadium when Alphonso Davies scored the first goal that a Canadian men's team has ever scored at a World Cup, it hit different. I try to stay reserved. As soon as that goal went in, I stood up, and it's not stood up cheering. It's just there's a gravity that pulls you at a World Cup. Yeah. And to know that Canada has earned its way through that incredible run in 2021 and through 2022, that incredible game at BMO Field against Jamaica where they qualified. But look at the talent that has grown up and certainly watched in some form or another the Atiba Hutchinsons and the Julian de Guzmans, the Jim Brennans, the Paul Pescasolitos. Yeah. The way that this country, and it's taken time. Here's that theme again of things take time. Yeah. But to know that it's kind of not culminating, but it's reaching its next level after the appearance into qualifying for 22, going to 22, and now getting ready to host in 2026. Why not cheer for this team? Like, give me a reason why. Just give me a coherent reason why. I gave you all of the passion, the pull on the heartstrings. The first few bars of the Italian national anthem will make me tear up even now, because I think about watching the games, watching Calcio on Rai at my nonno and nonna's house, knowing that my family supported Lazio and Roma. We're from the Rome, the Lazio, Rome, Abruzzo regions in the central and eastern part of Italy. Like that's all important. That's not
Mhm.
dismissed. It still matters, but this matters a little bit more because
Yeah.
it's our country on the biggest stage there is, not just in sports, but like culturally. We all agree as a planet that the World Cup matters more than anything else.
Yeah.
Why not cheer for your country now? What do you have to lose? Like, oh, they're not going to win. Well, yeah, there's only one winner of a
Yeah.
World Cup. It's not like, there's going to be 48 teams, 47 of them are going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that journey and to see the way, and I know this because Canadians, you look at the Jays run in just a few months ago,
Yeah.
and last fall, and how it galvanized the country. That could happen again. And for 2.5, for 3.5, 4 weeks, this country could be pulled together by a national team in ways that it very rarely is. Certainly, we saw the women did it. Excuse me, when they won gold in Japan in 2021. But these are one of the rare moments where, like, our country, our Maple Leaf gets to be on the world stage.
Yeah.
There is no reason for the nation not to go ahead and get behind the team, win, lose, or draw, because I can tell you, from Nico Segur to Luke DeFugero to Derek Cornelius to Moise Babito to Alistair Johnston to Alfonso Davies, they are all choosing. No one twisted their arm. Like Nico Segur, I'll give you a quick story. Nico Segur, when Alfonso Davies was in Moscow, and he was obviously at the FIFA Congress and announced and was making a petition that he wanted, was part of that joint bid between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. When it was announced that Canada was going to be playing in the World Cup, Nico Segur's father Tony was watching TV. Nico walked in and didn't skip a beat, looked at his dad and said, "I'm playing in that World Cup." And his dad was like, "Okay." He goes, "I'm playing in that World Cup." And that's not exclusive to him. They have wanted this moment.
Yeah.
Why not get behind them? Why not?
Exactly. And that's what I love is getting behind this team. Like you alluded to, when the Jays went on their run, when Canada gets behind a team, I feel like it is just one of those special moments.
So powerful. So powerful.
Exactly. Like, although the Jays run, they came up short in the end, but I remember that Bo Bichette home run in Game 7. It genuinely felt like the entire country was cheering. That Alfonso Davies goal in the World Cup, like I get chills talking about it. It's my favorite sporting moment ever. That Alfonso Davies goal. I love it. And it's those moments of getting behind this team. And I think that's what's super important going into this World Cup. And I think something super important as well is coming out of this World Cup. What do you think, from your perspective at least, what can Canada kind of do to ride this wave past the World Cup, whether it be, through the grassroots levels, whether it's a CPL, the NSL for the women, or just your local soccer club? Like, what can Canadians really do to keep this hype going and help building the next generation for the next World Cup and so on?
That, I think, is the central question that we face coming into this tournament, because this is the largest participatory sport in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It speaks to so many different communities in this country. I have been very lucky that I have spoken to many people involved in the game across Canada. I was just on the phone with those who are involved with Saskatchewan soccer last week, and they were telling me how in a province of in a province of just over 1 million people, they don't have enough spots and places to go ahead and just put cones up for people to play the game.
Oh, wow.
It is that popular in Saskatchewan.
Wow.
And I think we all need to digest that a little bit. It's a bit of a catch-22, because we're in a situation right now. I was just at the kit launch on Monday, and I walked into the hangar, which anyone who has been involved in soccer in this country, particularly in the Greater Toronto area, will know what the hangar is.
Yeah.
And to walk in and see it dressed up in this incredible setting, and hats off to Nike Canada for doing this. And just to walk in and be like, wow, like it feels like this is big and it matters. It's not contrived. They had grassroots kids there. My godson plays grassroots in Mississauga. Like it matters to so many people. But Jesse Marsh is right. the development system in our country is not great. And I've spoken to many coaches who helped coach those guys on this team right now, and one described it to me as a bowl of spaghetti. You don't know where it begins, you don't know where it ends. It's just kind of a heap right there.
Yeah.
I do want to acknowledge Secretary for Sport out of Vancouverton, the former Olympian who won a gold in kayaking. Excuse me, Secretary of State for Sport. I got to get the parliamentary title correct. He has been out front, and I commend him for doing that. He has owned this space, and I think there's a reason for that. There's a lot of things seem to be aligning. The Prime Minister of our country right now, I won't hold it against him. He is an Everton fan, but he is a massive football fan. Massive. He was at the World Cup in with his family in 2022.
Oh.
Like he loves this game so much.
Yeah.
So I think there is an opportunity here, unlike anything ever before, for this country to. I'm not going to go ahead and say, well, soccer is going to replace hockey. Like, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
But there is an opportunity here that soccer could grow into one of the sports that we identify with as part of our blended, diverse identity. But it really is going to come down to the men's team. And this is where, as much as you want to get behind them for the right reasons, great stories, home World Cup, get behind your country. The guys are all on this team are all very, 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 very likable. And Jesse Marsh has them playing a very particular way that I think a lot of Canadians are going to gravitate towards. They already have. I mean, we had 8.5 million people. That was the peak for Canada's game against Argentina in the semifinals of Copa America.
Yep.
But this is an opportunity that they're going to have to seize. A long run by this men's team. And certainly we can talk about the injuries if you want, and what Jesse Marsh is facing, even going into the March window next week. If they win their group, it's a round of 32 game at home, BC Place. They win that. It's a round of 16 game. But even if they don't, and they get through third, and they have to go to Santa Clara, the 49er Stadium at Levi Stadium, and face the Americans on Independence Day, the 250th anniversary, everything is set up for an incredible summer. And if this men's team grabs a hold of that and they capitalize on it, the sport will. You can quote me right now on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. If Canada goes on the run in this World Cup, the sport will never be the same again.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love that, and I think it's just another thing that adds it so exciting for this World Cup because, as you mentioned, that Copa run, nobody expected that at all. We saw a group and we're like, oh shoot, Argentina, former champs,
Peru,
Chile, and then we go on this run, and it culminates in a semifinal against reigning World Cup champs Argentina, defending Copa champs Argentina, and over 8 million people in Canada tuned in to that. And I think that's what's so special. And just to bring it back to another reason to really invest in this team. And you also mentioned in that answer there, two things I did want to touch upon. One being the kit and two being the injuries. So I'll go with the negative a little bit first here with the injuries. Sure. How is Canada kind of attempting to cope with just it's the injury bug. It's running rampant through Canada. There's no other way to put it. How are we kind of preparing for that ahead of the March window and then of course the June window? What are the thoughts and whatnot for Jesse Marsh and everything going into these windows?
I'm not in Jesse Marsh's head, but having been around him probably far more than he would like. I can tell you that he is very methodical and he has things planned out very detailed. And I would imagine that he might change his approach for this window because, Alphonso Davies is not coming. We'll see if Moise Babito, Alistair Johnston, who both haven't played for their clubs in a long time, will be here. Will be coming just to be around the team. But there also certainly now is the concern around Derek Cornelius. He hasn't played. Stefan Eustachio, very unfortunately, ran into a Canadian referee a couple of weeks ago in Drew Fisher. And we'll see if he's coming. Injuries happen, and they are a concern. But Canada has depth like it's never had before. You look at right now, and let's just play a game. Obviously, in goal, everyone wants to know whether or not it's going to be Max or Dane. I think Jesse Marsh, if he's platooned them in split games before, there's no reason for him to stop now. Even
Yeah.
though I would imagine, even those the defenders in front might want there to be an answer because Max and Dane are very different goalkeepers.
Yes.
But you have two quality MLS goalkeepers, one in Maxime Crépeau, who got you to a semifinals, got you to the third place game of Copa America.
Yeah.
You have the reigning MLS goalkeeper of the year in Dane St. Clair right in front of him. And I believe whenever he comes back, and there is still enough time that he can get up to match fitness, but wrap Moise Babito in all the bubble wrap you can, because
Yes.
he is so important to this team. But even right next to him in that left center back position, there is depth here. Yes, Luke de Fougerolles just tore some ligaments in his ankle, but he has enough time to get healthy. He is a guy who will play his butt off, irrespective of the situation. Derek Cornelius scored a worldie of a free kick in Wales and Swan. So we know that he's capable, and certainly he played well alongside Moise Babito. But it's not just them. Alfie Jones dealing with a foot injury. He hopefully is on the mend and should be ready to go for May. But look around them. Alphonso Davies. Yes, he is the captain of the country, one of the best players on the planet in his position, although certainly there's been concerns with the amount of injuries that he's had.
Yes.
If he's healthy enough to go, he is a value add. But if he is not well enough to go, you have Richie Larea, who may not be as fast, but brings different kinds of things to the team.
Yeah.
And he's versatile too. If Alistair Johnson's not good to go, he could play on the right. But you know who could also play at right back? Nico Segur. He's done it for Canada in a couple of games. And certainly, yes, made a mistake against Australia, but he's so composed. Today, go on his social media today. You want to see how committed Nico Segur is to this process? He posted a video today of the work that he was doing at a Burnaby school during COVID under Twilight. Like the man, I say this to people all the time. Nico Segur chose to play for Canada. The Canadian men's national team has a guy who could have and likely would have played for the Croatian men's national team now on their team. The depth is different. Then you look at, I don't think anyone would dispute that if Tajon Buchanan is playing the way we all know Tajon Buchanan can play, nobody is taking that job from him on the right.
100%.
And if you look at just not only what he does on the right, but certainly behind him, Liam Miller, we know that he's versatile, can play both sides, and he could be playing in the championship playoffs with Hull, and could be the championship playoff final at Wembley. And Hull's played pretty well. Certainly, Jacob Schaffelberg has dealt with a groin injury and a hamstring injury, but we know what he does for Canada, irrespective of the red card against Guatemala. I know. And on the left, has anyone had a better start to their career in the championship than Ali Ahmed? I don't think so. Like Norwich City loves this guy.
Yeah, he's been unreal.
And then you look at the center of, then you look at the middle of the park. We hope everyone hopes that Stefan Eustáquio is healthy.
Yes.
But Nathan Saliba, yes, and Stefan Eustáquio plays the 6, so he plays it, as his role as vice captain too. He plays a more relaxed role. He is kind of the metronome of the team. But let's say he's not healthy. Nathan Saliba can come in. Ismail Kone, if I say to people all the time, I'm not comparing Ismail Kone to Valverde, but I could totally see him having the kind of game that Valverde had in that first half against Man City. I'm not comparing 1-to-1.
Yeah.
But Ismail Kone has that in his locker. Look at the way he's played for Sassuolo. The guy, it's amazing. The guy that we were all talking about, he's got problems at Marseille. He doesn't got any problems anymore.
No.
He's likely going to a big club this summer.
100%.
And then Nico Segur can play in the middle too. And my goodness, Matthew Scianitti is now a guy that we can the depth is here. And then up front, Tani Oluwaseyi, although yes, certainly we can debate his effectiveness in front of goal, and he will, and it's not necessarily criticism, but certainly an honest opinion. But Theo Bair, when he gets healthy, again, I know the injury bug is still a problem, but Theo Bair's on the mend. He's got size, he's got strength. Jonathan David is so integral to this team. Daniel Jebison. If you go back and watch the game this past week that Daniel Jebison played in, he has athleticism that's off the charts.
Oh yeah.
And then we have, and if you are a Canadian soccer fan, hitch your wagon to the recovery of Promise David, because I can tell you, having spoken to him not too long ago,
Yeah.
he is obsessed with getting back. So I know it was a roundabout way. It took you through the whole lineup. The depth on this team is it's better than it's ever been.
Hmm.
Like, and this is not to be disparaging of anyone who played in 2022 at all, but I haven't mentioned names like Kamal Miller, who started in 2022. There are guys on this team. The fight is real. Jesse Marsh has put it all to them. You guys have to step up. The level as we talk about Ralph Prizo coming in
Yeah.
and maybe Ben Pebble coming in this camp, like it's no longer, wow, maybe potentially we could get this guy in and that guy in. We haven't even spoken about Marcelo Flores. He's now come in. The competition for spaces is intense. And
Hmm.
one thing that unites all of these guys, they want to play. They
Yeah.
want to play for Canada. It's not going to be easy. When you look at the group, the fact of the matter is this: it not only invites all of Canada's strengths, but it could expose all of Canada's weaknesses.
Yeah.
Canada has never beaten a top 15 nation, as well as they have played against France and the Netherlands for one half, and that was Jesse Marsh's first game, but they got shellacked in the second half. But
Yeah.
they played well in that first half for a team that was kind of hanging on for a little bit as they were learning Marsh's system. But Colombia,
Hmm.
Argentina were the World Cup champions at that point. I would love to see, and I'm not implying they would beat Argentina, but I would love to see Canada at their strongest against Argentina,
Hmm.
because it would continue to be a very competitive game. Because as he'll remind you all the time, Daniel Washayi had a chance to score against Argentina, and that game would have, in the second half, would have played out a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But there is, being a top 15 nation is still very, very difficult for Canada. And they're going to have, if they want to win this group, they have to get a result out of that first game, especially if it's Italy.
100%.
But this country can also, Canada also plays down to opponents. They'll admit that. Even though, like, think about the whole run in the Gold Cup last summer. They play down to Guatemala. Canada
Yes.
should have beaten Guatemala.
Yeah.
All my friends in Guatemalan media, you can go ahead and clip this and put it on your social medias. They should have beaten Guatemala. They are more talented than Guatemala. They got a red card. They had to learn a tough lesson. But you know what? They came off that lesson. They went to Romania and beat Romania and beat them, walking away. And then they went to Wales and beat Wales. So this team knows how to adapt. But that game against Guatemala, the game against Curacao, they offer concerning aspects when you consider Canada playing down to not inferior opponents, but opponents that they are now way above in the world rankings.
Yeah.
And then that last game against Switzerland. If you want to look at a team that is a tactician when it comes to getting out of a group, look at the recent record of the Swiss national team. It is Switzerland. They know how to get out of the group stage. Maybe they don't go so far into tournaments, but they know how to get out of the group stage. And speaking to their head coach at the draw, like, this team is going to be ready. They are detailed and they are well versed, and they will, Granit Xhaka and company are going to be ready for Canada.
Yeah.
So all the opportunities are there. All of the potential pitfalls are there, but the depth on this team is unlike anything this country's ever had before.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's concerning with the injuries, but also kind of, I don't want to say exciting because you never want to see people injured, but it's good that we now have guys that can step into those roles and step into those positions. And you were alluding a lot to the competitiveness of the squad. And I think that's really interesting because in sport, this is a team sport, but there is still that competitive edge within this squad of these guys. They want to play. They want to be in the 11. And I think that's really great to hear, because instead of being like, oh, they're happy to sit on the bench. Like, no, these guys,
they all want to play, man.
Yeah.
They all want to play.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And I had a question about the kit launch, and I just have a couple more questions for you. I had a question about the kit launch because you alluded to it a little bit ago, but with that kit launch, it felt different because usually I've been following Canada soccer pretty much my whole life. A lot of the time you didn't even know a new kit was out. It was, you'd see it in like a sport check or something, go, is that a new kit? Whereas this one, it felt like I saw that Nike was projecting some of our Nike athletes onto, I don't know which building it was in
It
Toronto,
was
but
for, it was the Royal York Hotel. I was there
yeah,
that night when they were projecting it, so I saw Nike Canada do it. It was pretty cool.
yeah. And we like, I've never seen us do that. It felt really cool. So why does that make us feel a little bit more? Because I know it sounds a little bit ridiculous out of context. A kit makes you a bit more serious, but the way that we treated this rollout of this kit, does that kind of speak to the level of seriousness that we are kind of taking this program now? Instead of just being like, oh, hey guys, here's a new kit. It's here's a whole rollout. We're gonna bring in grassroots players. We're gonna bring in Jonathan Osorio and Richie Larea. They're gonna take some time, take some pictures, show off the kit. Like, why is that so special and so different for Canada soccer?
Well, as I answer it, I can just go ahead and show you the
Oh, beauty.
yeah. So this is what I find incredible about this whole process, and this has been going on um, over 2 years. This is before Jesse Marsh and Kevin Blue came into the picture. The Nike went to them, and credit to Nike. And I met the designer of the jersey, who actually the guy who designed, fun fact, the guy who designed these Canadian jerseys
Yeah.
designed that Manchester United jersey back
Oh,
in 2002. So like it's like there has been care and attention and intention
mhm.
in putting this kit together, and this is really for the players and
Yeah.
them having a sense of ownership. And when you look at the red one and the maple leaf that's on it, it might seem, when it's dressed up a little bit more, it's got the number on the front, the number on the back, the name on the back, and obviously the match ID that it'll inevitably have when the tournament starts. It feels big. Now,
Yeah.
I always say to people, well, and some people, everyone's welcome to criticize any kit. Look, far be it for me to be a fashionista and tell people how to think about the kits. That's a subculture in and of itself. But Nike and the player, Nike has come to them and given them the treatment that they would give Brazil,
Hmm.
that they would give England, that they would give the Dutch. Like these are other nations synonymous with the Nike soccer brand, and that means something. Like for people to think that Nike is going to go ahead and give all of their best of best resources to Canada soccer, I'm not saying it's naive at all. But look what they did yesterday. You walk into the hangar and it was like they had massive billboards. They had kids out there. They had certainly the legend Dwayne De Rosario and Larea, as you mentioned. But you could see how happy Richie Larea was to wear this.
Yeah.
And that means something because it's not like the one thing that makes football as a sport so incredible is the kind of little identifiable markers that players have with their clubs, that they have with their national teams. And a kit matters, man. Like
Yes.
it just matters to how players feel when they put it on and when they play. And that feeling that Osorio had a smile on his face when he was talking about the kit. And he may not even make the team. Like
Hmm.
that's another guy. We talk about the depth. Like, but they himself, Richie Larea, that entire, not just the leadership group, but every player who plays for Canada, they wanted input into this kit because of what this moment means to this group. And to know that Canadian soccer has entered that wider world where kit launches are always a thing, much like
Yeah.
sneaker drops. Just shows you that we're entering a wider world, and that's the one thing about the World Cup that everyone's going to understand when it comes here. It's like I always compare it to looking up at the night sky at a clear night, and you see all the stars, and you realize, wow, we're one piece of a bigger story.
Yes.
But now Canada is a valued piece of the greatest sports story on the planet, which is football and the World Cup and what it means. And to know that Canada is going to be wearing something that's pretty identifiable, and that, I mean, again, I love this
Yeah.
detail.
That's amazing.
The lucky loony on the inside of the. I mean, like I my job isn't to cheer for the team, and I'm not, and I don't do it. I loved your word. I try to keep respectful. But
Mm.
how as a Canadian can you not look at that and say, yeah, man, this is ours. This is
Yeah.
something we can identify with. And even this third kid and knowing what the black jersey has meant to the recent history of the men's
Yeah.
national team and the Ice Teca games in Edmonton and Alphonso Davies' first goal all being in a black jersey. Who knows? I mean, we could be talking about this come August, come September, and for years and years after, months and months and years after, of all the iconic moments they've had in these jerseys. So, I mean, what's not to get excited about?
Yeah, so that's my favorite of the two. It's a great kit. But I love that they took this so seriously because it genuinely it makes the difference, in my opinion, of the athletes, the players getting a say in how it's designed and them doing an entire rollout for this kit, bringing in people. It just speaks to the new mentality, I guess, of Canada soccer of, we are taking this seriously. Like, this isn't just a we're happy to be here tournament. It's not that at all. It feels like very much like, we're here, we're going to put the world on notice. And I think that that's what's so great because this program has grown so much. And I think that that leads me into one of my last questions here is you getting to have been with this team, talking with these players and all the amazing things that they've done and you've gotten to witness firsthand. How proud does it make you? I know you can't really be too biased, but maybe drop it a little bit. And how proud does it make you to get to see this game have grown in Canada so much over the last even decade? It's grown so much, and I just love to know how proud it makes you to get to cover this.
Um, After Canada beat Venezuela in that penalty shootout,
Mhm.
I typically do, so to peel back the curtain a little bit, I usually do the on-field interviews. They're called the super flash interviews, where
Yeah.
you see a player immediately after a game and you ask them questions. And Maxime Crepeau walked up to me, and before our interview started, he just looked at me and started just like he took his hands and was like slapping my chest because he was this all this energy that he just had. And I remember just standing there and going like, "What kind of life do I live, man? This is nuts." And I think what makes me proudest, to go back to the point about covering Canadian sports, is this is unique to us. It
Hmm.
doesn't happen anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Sure, it happens in other ways, in other jerseys, with other teams and other players, but this is our story. And to know that I have been very, 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 very blessed to be a part of historic moments for this program, for this country, on the biggest stage there is in sports. Um, yeah, like I oftentimes say I will never overtly root for Canada. Like I'm never going to, it's just, to me, there's an old saying they
Yes.
have in sports journalism: never cheer in the press box. And there's an old Canadian press writer, Larry Milson, who once gave me a stern talking to when I was much, much, much younger, and reminded me of that. And I've always taken that to heart because I'm not being paid to be a fan. I'm
Yes.
being paid to tell a story and to use all of the tools that I have at my disposal to tell that story. But it's hard not to hero Canada play when Canada walked out against Belgium for the first time in 36 years on the biggest stage there is, and not sit back and go and
Hmm.
feel proud of just like the achievement of this team, and feel proud in the sense of not like, wow, good for them. Like, just feel like this is where our country belongs. This nation, certainly with all of its many intricacies, difficulties, contradictions, so on and so forth. Every nation has that, but our nation, given the skill, the talent, the stories of so many Canadians, deserves to be on that stage as much as the women do, and have done and been successful on the international stage. And to see Canada's men do it right in front of my eyes, I literally, as I sit here and where the camera lens is, I have watched this team play
Hmm.
dozens of times right in front of me. And to be able to have told that story and to be a part of it in my small little way, like I said, not to repeat myself, but it's one of the greatest honors of my life.
That's awesome. And I do just have one more for you. Anybody watching this probably knows exactly where they can find you. But I do want to just leave it open for you to let people know where they can find you so they can keep up with the men's national team, the CFL, and everything that you're doing and yeah, all the stories that you're getting to share.
I appreciate that, Sam. So you can obviously find me at TSN Scianitti, SCIANITTI, on Instagram, on Twitter. We're going to have some exciting things coming up. A lot of things that I'm really excited to share with the country, because, as I said, there's nothing like it, man. Sam, there isn't anything like the World Cup. And what's about to happen, this country, although it's not ready when it's here, it'll feel like it's always belonged here. And that's, it's what, just under 90 days.
Yeah.
Can't come fast enough.
Absolutely. And Matthew, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate this so much. You've been amazing with your time, amazing with your answers. So I really do appreciate you putting the time aside to do this with me. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. And I really look forward to everything that you've got in store for the World Cup and everything the World Cup has in store for all of us. So thank you so much for doing this today.
No problem, man. And you know what? I have to. I see that Chelsea jersey right behind you, so I have to be. I'm glad. I'm glad that I was able to keep my P's and Q's as I see that right behind you. It's all good, man. It was absolutely my pleasure. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. So that does wrap up this episode of Maple Footy. Just want to say a huge thank you to Matthew Scianitti. This was a genuine pinch me moment for me and the podcast. He is genuinely someone that I do seriously look up to in this Canada soccer media space. Genuinely love the work that he does. So it was just so surreal to have him on. The advice that he's given me both in that podcast and off mics and whatnot, the couple times that we have chatted, has been absolutely unreal. So yes, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, check out our other interviews. There's a playlist I will prompt at the end of this podcast. Go check it out. I do hope that you enjoyed. And once again, a huge thank you to Matthew Scianitti, because this was genuinely so surreal, and part of me still can't believe that it actually happened. So yeah, thank you so much. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.